Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. As the most analytical person that ever lived, I'm going to explain this to you. And you should know that I'm right. There are retarded little children who would know that I'm right. So, when we look at the Jewish argument of the Bible, it is clearly wrong. First of all, they're Jews. Where is their fruit? They base their beliefs solely on their racial identity, what have you, not on the facts. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. All right, that sums up the law and the prophets. Love God with all your being. They don't look at the thing fairly. So we see in Proverbs, it says no one can be established through wickedness. In Psalm 37 or so, it says the offspring of the wicked will perish, and God would never forsake the righteous. This is part of understanding do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It goes without saying. And those are Old Testament verses. So when we look at the masses of the churches, their arguments are laughable. Okay? The Abrahamic faiths have clearly failed. Hail has swept away their refuge to lie in the minds of anyone who has a speck of intelligence or better. It's very clear. So when Jews argue that they expect you to believe a small group of rabbis who they claim to have special insight into the Hebrew language and what it's getting at, what have you, they've lost their minds. One, because the masses of Christians, for example, they look at it in terms of what Scripture is saying to them. If they believe that they're mistaken about what it's saying to them, they're not likely to continue, right? For example, if some Jews told them that, hey, they have to have sex with animals every day because they have special insight into the book. The Christians, because they're also arrogant and stubborn, are likely to say no, right? Even if they prove their point to a T, because their faith is not based on a belief in the author's infallibility. It's based on their own arrogance. It's based on them being self-deluded and arrogant and cocky and them wanting things their way. That's why it's called white privilege, and token minorities are whitewashed. And people who go to church tend to be whitewashed. Pretty straightforward. If you don't know that, my goodness, you are dumb. That's why it's so important to declare that I'm smarter than everyone else. Because you get these stubborn idiots who are in denial or they just want to lie. Okay, and that's why the throne is established in righteousness. Because I do not have the problems you people have. I do not let racial supremacy or anything else confuse me or take away from my rulings and my conclusions. So when you look at the particular arguments that they're making, again, no offense to anybody, these are the facts here. I'm not afraid. I say no offense because I want to make sure that people know that this is true and that I'm being fair, and I don't want to break the rules on YouTube. Okay, so when you look at the arguments they're making, they're basically saying that they have special insight into the Bible, and they believe that Galatians 3:28 is void, and that you actually have to obey God through them, which is rubbish. I've been analyzing Isaiah 52, 53, 54, okay, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, for good measure, and how it connects to Isaiah 65 and 66. And I can say with certainty that even if you just had the Old Testament, they're clearly wrong. Okay? Because the Bible keeps pointing to the righteous, whether they're Jews or not. We see that when Jews are taken into captivity, where God puts them beneath the Egyptians. We see that when God puts them beneath the Assyrians and Babylonians. The argument being made is that the righteous are supposed to rule. We see in Proverbs 16:12, Proverbs 17:2. It's a recurring theme again and again and again. It's impossible to miss. If you read the Bible as a sane person, or the Old Testament, the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the Torah, you're going to quickly come to the conclusion that God is a God of justice, okay, and that's what you should cling on to, is that idea. So you're going to see a lot of things are confusing, a lot of dots that have to be connected, but you're going to see that part of it. So for a group of Jews, or all the Jews, or some of the Jews, or whatever, to come together and say, hey, salvation is magically from where it's not, which is the Jews, is insane. The Bible is actually saying the opposite. It's saying, do not look to the Jews because they keep failing. It's saying when you see Proverbs is the central book of the Old Testament because it's there to help you understand the rest of the books. The rest of the books can be seen as kind of either you default with I'm right or it's rubbish without Proverbs. And with Proverbs, you see that I'm right because it helps you think deeply about scriptures. It says that it's there to help you understand the riddles, the parables, and the sayings of the wise. And it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? The fear of the Lord is what it means to be humble, how you start being wise, what have you. And that leads you to zooming in on what's right and what's wrong, not on people's flesh. Thus, Proverbs 17:2 says, a prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son and share the inheritance as one of the family. And we see in Isaiah, it's Isaiah 57, verse 20, there is no peace, says my God, for the wicked. And it says it twice. So God says there's no peace for the wicked. And a prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son. Not somebody who scrambles to understand, insignificant individual words in Scripture that might be different when it was interpreted from Hebrew to English than it was from Hebrew to Greek to English. Okay, that's very key there. Because a few words here and there does not change the overall message. This one female came on, she came out, she was on Dr. Gaff, she had her own little video series, and she was claiming that the servant was magically, the Jews collectively. But if you zoom in on Isaiah 52 and Isaiah 53 and you read it again and again and take notes, you see they keep talking in a way that makes it clear that if a few words were switched, it wouldn't change the general message. It's talking about an individual. It's talking about his soul and his spirit. And it's talking about those who team up with that individual, not the Jewish people collectively. And the Jews, because of political Zionism, they keep saying that it's about the Jews collectively. It's not. It's about an order of righteous people that may or may not include the Jews. Thus, the Christians are more right than the Jews are in popular culture on this issue. When it comes to Galatians 3:28, there is no Jew or Gentile. You're either in the divine order and you're looking at things in terms of righteousness and who's more righteous than who, or you're not. And do unto others as you would have them do unto you does sum up the law and the prophets. And loving God with all your heart does sum up the law and the prophets. So salvation is from God through the righteous, not from the Jews. And I can't stress that enough. So when we look at their arguments, they're like trying to bully people. They're saying, hey, we know better about Hebrew than you do, which is not necessarily the case. And it doesn't matter if it was. And they're saying that you should listen to them. And it's like, that's insane. And many of them are even persecuting me, and I've proven definitively that I'm the most righteous person that ever lived, that is living, and ever will live due to tech breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains, including them cheating me out of a pseudo helper, thus cheating me out of raising a child myself. Okay, I'm the most righteous person that ever will have lived as a result. And you got to realize the significance of them cheating me out of having a kid. And even if you don't know about me, even before this video, you should know that you shouldn't be reproducing right now. Get everyone, their mom also on top of that saying it's the end times. But anyway, when they cheated me out of raising a child myself, it was so profoundly evil, and it connects to the fact that no one can be established through wickedness, whether they're wicked wittingly or otherwise. And the offspring of the wicked, whether they're wittingly wicked or otherwise, will perish. Because God will not forsake the righteous. You think God is going to forsake the top martial artist ever possible? His son? When you people and your spirits in this world came together to cheat me out of an offspring, and there's so many idiots mocking and scoffing, saying, well, some of us don't know what's going on, as if that's going to help them? You think God would then turn around and reward them? After I've loved God more than everyone else put together that ever lived? After I've achieved far more? No. Because this world does not center around the Jews or the Gentiles or other people. It centers around me. It is a top martial artist challenge scenario. And after I'm gone, it's like a rotten apple that's useless, where only worms who betrayed God remain, and they keep getting, judged according to their deeds as they pass over into the afterlife. To look at it differently is stupid. You think that Pee Wee Herman is as significant as I am? You think a bunch of Jews who are persecuting me are as significant as I am or more? That's retarded. Are you that dumb? Do you think an ant is as significant as I am? Do you think, a speck of snow, a speck of dust? Where do you draw the line? When do you finally understand?